CNN and MS Now in a full-blown crisis. As it turns out, Tim Walz and President Trump suddenly on the same page in some ways that make it very strange for the cable and legacy news outlets. Today we'll tell you why their ratings are about to be destroyed. Oh boy, it's a bad day to be Rachel Maddow, Jake Tapper, and all the rest. Hello folks, and welcome back to the channel that continues to change hearts and minds simply by telling the truth with a capital T every single time you decide to join us. It's a pleasure. It's an attitude of gratitude, ladies and gentlemen, for you. Truly, you're the gigawatts of all gigawatts. And as we do what we do, all we ask that you do is to click that like button. If we don't have your subscription earned yet, we're working very hard every single day to get at it yet. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the news you need to know. Folks, we got some stuff to talk about when it comes to cable news and the legacy news and what they've been doing in Minnesota. We're not getting into the politics of it as best we can, but we are going to talk about the entertainment side of this, and ratings have been huge for CNN and MS Now as they have covered all of the icy chaos, and we're not talking about winter storms. Representative Anna Paulina Luna has this. She says there's nothing organic about these protests, and we're going to explain, I believe, what is going on. Cam Higbee uncovered this, that there are vast training manuals and all kinds of huge amounts of money being given to these organizations, these protests. They're not organic. They're not, they are highly funded and well coordinated. And she has this all. Now, this stuff came out just before changes happened in Minnesota. What else happened with Minnesota? Well, folks, we got to go over to news for this. Bill O'Reilly just exposed what he says is the most important detail of the Minnesota saga and proves the media is refusing to report it. We're going to play this from Bill O'Reilly from News Nation. Before we do, folks, I got to tell you that Bill O'Reilly had actually said that he was going to step back and not be on camera for an extended period of time because he's recovering from illness or he's going through illness. He actually canceled that because he felt this news was so big. I don't know if you're a Bill O'Reilly fan. I don't know if you're not. You remember him from the No Spin Factor or the No Spin Show and Fox News. But Bill O'Reilly, having just said, hey guys, I've got an illness. I can't be on camera. I got to take some time off. I got to, my doctors, all that. It was so big. He came back. Here's what he had to say. And I'm going to explain how this all ties to CNN, MS Now. And I think by the end of this, if everybody hangs with us here, I think by the end of it, some of the very confusing actions of President Trump may actually be rather clear.
Here's the most important part of this whole thing, unreported, okay? There is a man in Shanghai, China, an American citizen. His name is Neville Roy Singham. He works with the Beijing government. He is funneling millions of dollars into the United States of America through 501s like Party for Socialism and Liberation, Democratic Socialists of America, Minnesota Immigration Rights Action Committee. There he is, okay? Connecticut-born, 71 years old, billionaire tech guy. He is funneling money here to these radical organizations who are then agitating professional people, communists mostly, because Singham's a communist, all right, to go in and foster rebellion. You heard that story reported? That is absolutely true.
We're going to hold that there. Bill O'Reilly says he knows the guy, he knows the way the money is coming into these organizations, and he ties it into China. And that's a huge story, and you would think that reporters would be all over that. That does not seem to be the case. However, shortly after the papers came out that show these organizations are highly coordinated with lots of money, and shortly after Bill O'Reilly came out and made these kinds of claims, guess what? Governor Tim Walz ordered the Minnesota State Patrol to counter protesters with maximum force. Now, you all saw the very awkward situation where suddenly President Trump and Tim Walz and Frey and all these people suddenly agree. And if you look to the supporters of Trump, they're confused. They're angry. If you look at the supporters of Tim Walz, they're confused. They're angry. They don't understand why both sides are working together. Here's the Minnesota police suddenly in total force going after this.
Please sit down and wait for instruction.
So people have been saying, where's the Minnesota police? Why are they not there? What's going on? What's happening? Suddenly they're there. And I'm going to explain it in just a second. I want to go to one last clip. I want to show this to you. I want to show you how much CNN and MS Now have pushed this to levels of absolute insanity because people don't believe this. And if you don't see it, you just don't understand. People say, well, you know, the news is getting the ratings because they're the news and it's news. And, you know, and most people just go about their lives and they don't think about, well, what's the catalyst for the crisis? What's the catalyst for the crisis? Most people don't think about it. They don't have time to think about it. They got a job. They got work to do. They don't spend their commute into work or while they're shoveling snow going, you know, why is it that it's only in Minnesota that all this chaos is happening? Like, why, if ice is everywhere, why is it just that? They don't think about that, right? Folks, here's what's happening on CNN and MS Now, because I know you don't watch them. Here's what they're promoting. And I truly believe that they're in on fueling the chaos. Here's an interview on CNN. Here's what you can expect if you tune in and Scott Jennings is not there.
I understand that, but they take people to Fort Snelling here, which literally was built as a concentration camp, and Alligator Alcatraz, which I think we can all agree is a concentration camp. Not saying they're Dachau yet.
What in the world?
Okay. Even Tapper can't hang there. So, Jonas, here's my thesis on what happened. I'm going to blame this.
I'm going to say it was the patriarchy that caused this to happen, and we're just going to leave it there because we all know that's true.
Right. So he's claiming that, you know, that ICE is putting people in, you know, ovens. All right. So here's what I think happened. This is my thesis for it. I think the money is coming from China. I think Bill O'Reilly's right about that guy, although I don't know for sure. But Bill O'Reilly, I think, faces a huge lawsuit that he would not be interested in if he gets that wrong. So I think probably he's got it right. I think the money's coming in from China. It's flowing into these organizations. I think these organizations probably are in line with the cable news channels and the legacy media. All of that is, I believe, to whatever degree, linked up with China wishing to sow discord in the United States. Okay? And countries do that to one another. But here's the thing that I don't think people understand necessarily. I think that once those files came out, the organizations that are doing all this stuff that Representative Anna Paulina Luna is showing, I believe once this came out, I believe the phone call went out from Trump that said, listen, we know who's doing this. We know the country. And it's going to be time for arrests and all that kind of stuff to happen with leadership there. We need you to get on board now. And I think that's what happened. And I think everybody's playing nice. And I think that the supporters of Trump are angry. They don't understand why he's playing nice with Tim Walz. They don't understand why Don Lemon is not arrested yet. And I think the Tim Walz people, if you think the Trump people are mad, you think about the Walz people and CNN and MS Now, how they're covering that Tim Walz is sending the police in. Both sides are angry at their people. But I believe that what happened is what Bill O'Reilly has uncovered. I think this is of international funding, malicious foreign governments. And I think that CNN and MS Now and the other legacy news media out there, I think they have relished and risen based on what amounts to a foreign propaganda attack on our country. And that's what I think we're watching. I hope that explains it. Folks, you can disagree with me. Panel, it's your turn. Hop in here and weigh in. Marv, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on this very strange transpiring of events where we get this stuff out and suddenly Trump's buddies with Tim Walz. That's what people think, or Tim Walz's buddies. I think this might explain it. What say you?
Well, I mean, look, the one thing that they always tell you in these situations is follow the money. And it sounds like that's what Bill O'Reilly did to arrive at the conclusion he arrived at. That would connect the dots fairly neatly. I mean, look, we've all known that like these protests, there are definitely professional protesters, professional agitators, you know, within there. We've seen the way that they're working almost kind of like a de facto citizen militia or citizen police force. So yeah, I think that it's very possible that there is something going on here backed by foreign powers, backed by, you know, communist elements, you know, in the billionaire class, which why you would be a billionaire and a communist, I really don't understand that. But I think that there's a lot going on here that we don't know. I think it's also the timing that I've always found suspect was that all of this erupted, you know, in Minnesota around the same time that a whole bunch of corruption tied to the governor of Minnesota was, you know, suddenly put out there.
Somali fraud, all that fraud, and they're not talking about that anymore. I agree with you 100%.
Well, I think with Tim Walz getting involved now too. I mean, I don't see this as Trump cooperating with him. I see this as almost as Tim Walz capitulating to Trump, because people are getting hurt now. Property's being destroyed. If he doesn't step in, what does that say about law and order? You know, in his state. So yeah, I think he has no choice but to step in now.
Well, I'm telling you, the Trump supporters, many of them are outraged. The Tim Walz supporters are outraged. So then you got to say, okay, so somebody like Tim Pool is furious at Trump, says that he's a Buchanan, right? What is it? You got to why would this happen? Is what you got to say, and you got to apply Occam's razor, and you go and you look and say, okay, well, here are these documents that got leaked out, and marvelous job by the guy who leaked them out. Then you got Bill O'Reilly saying, I've got the connection, I'm reporting on this, the news refuses to report on it, and this goes to China, and I've got the receipts. And then suddenly the attitudes change with Waltz and Trump, and you got to say to yourself, is all this just coincidental, or did something happen? Because this is a seismic attitude change from Trump and from Waltz. Now, I think Waltz is a bad dude. I think he's a bad guy. Why? Well, because we've increased the GDP of Somalia via all the fraud that's in Minnesota. So I think he's a bad guy. Some people think Trump's a bad guy, but neither of these guys like each other, and suddenly they're helping each other, at least ostensibly. Very strange culture. Go to you. What do you think about this idea that maybe something was uncovered and maybe there was no more option for Waltz than to cooperate and coordinate with Trump and bring in the police? And for Trump, maybe the offering was, you're not going to be arrested and I will play nice.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly couldn't have happened. I'm not certain that that's the quid pro quo I would be going for. But maybe he told Waltz he'd wait to arrest him until he was officially out of office. Because you have to remember, there's a reason he stopped running for governor of Minnesota. There's a reason why the Minneapolis mayor came out and said, oh, no, there absolutely was all this fraud. I mean, I think Marv put his finger on the pulse of the entire thing. It's a coordinated effort to try to cover things up, just like they're trying to cover up voter rolls and things like that. They don't want anybody looking at the extraordinary amounts of fraud at every level and in every possible way, not just financial, but maybe in other ways that control various state and city governments. All of this is bad news. And the fact that the police decided to get on board in Minnesota explains an awful lot.
Okay, so if you're CNN and you're MS Now and you're legacy media, you're getting ratings by causing these people to believe that they're under assault by ICE and that they're under occupation. And something has changed. Folks can argue about what it is, and they can say, Pro, you're totally wrong. That's okay. You can say that. It's okay to believe that. But something changed that now has the Minnesota police, under the direction of Waltz, doing what was the stuff that ICE was being forced to do. And that means that legacy and channels like CNN, MS, and Now, they don't have an enemy. What are they going to do? Are they going to go after the Minnesota police and Tim Waltz? Is that what they're going to do? So what this has done is, however it happened, it has completely reversed the strategy that these channels were using for their ratings. They don't have a common enemy now that they can go after, and that's a problem for them. Jonas, Ron, your thoughts on this?
You know, it's an interesting thing. They need a domestic enemy to go after, because I think they know that foreign enemies tend to be a little bit more amorphous. You know, they don't say that Russia is the enemy. They say that Trump is working with Russia. They don't talk about China because there's no specific person in China that they've created that villain narrative over. So I think it's a very they know their audience well when they're doing this muckraking for trying to drive viewership by creating a conflict narrative. So I think they need it to be someone internal as opposed to saying it's China. Because I think the audience, they know that the audience loses touch when they just say it's a whole country. And it doesn't play like Putin. That name actually works really well.
Well,
Americans can't even properly pronounce Xi Jinping, however that is. I'm sure I just mispronounced it. So I actually think that there's a lot of trying to find a way to spin this in America, and they don't know how to say we should be united against a foreign enemy. That's something they haven't done for a very long time. They would prefer to say that Americans are working with a foreign enemy.
They don't want unity.
With a foreign enemy, Jonas, is that foreign enemies eventually get defeated. They go away. We've seen that repeatedly. So eventually someone had the great idea of, what if we convince half of the population that the other half of the population are the enemy?
Right.
Yeah. Well, it's easier to create the divisive thing that they need in order to, have upheaval during the election cycles. They're still looking at the midterms. This is a motive for the midterms right now. But set all that aside, if they were to officially go after the CCP, there would be no longer any reason for us to do any business with China. There's a lot of American business tied into the financial interests of American businessmen and women. Look at Disney. Disney has $4 billion tied up over there in a theme park. Actually, it's more than that because of the raft that happened during construction. But you understand my point is you have Nike, who's almost all the way out of there now. But that was only because we, journalists, people on the independent side of journalism, uncover all the labor that was being used, forced labor being used by people who couldn't defend themselves because they didn't align with, the religious beliefs, because there are no religious beliefs in a country like China. They run away from and almost guarantee that you can't participate in religion in China. There's no such thing as freedoms in a country like China. Why do you think they're trying to remake America as having none of these, moral centers? I mean,
everything that Disney makes is from China. This entire label on this hat is Chinese. It's
right. Hey, Ron,
they're very tied in.
Ron, let's talk about it for the Trump supporters are angry. Yeah. The Waltz supporters are angry. The left media has no idea what to do now with this. They want to say that Trump capitulated, and maybe did, maybe he didn't. Whatever the case may be, Minnesotans out there, and they're largely out-of-state protesters, by the way, but the people out there who are protesting now facing off with Tim Waltz's police officers. That's a strange place for the news to be, Ron.
Yeah, very strange. I want to say that I think O'Reilly did the work that he does, because he is now completely independent. It's actually, what he's doing really is trying to put out news where all of these other stations, CNN, MSNOW, they're very purposefully, like Marvin put it, trying to create a narrative to divide the people one side against the other. And it's gotten to the point where it is literally dangerous to our society. You are motivating people to put themselves in places where they really shouldn't be, to put themselves in situations of danger that they do not need to be in for whatever reason. And this to me shows that we've kind of reached this breaking point where we cannot afford to do that anymore in our society. When you see everything that's gone on in Minnesota, and it's if you really look at it, if you stand apart from it, and you know people that live there, it's heartbreaking that the people that just want to live their lives are faced with this every day. And I'm hoping that the situation that O'Reilly brought to light might calm all of this down for the people that actually live in Minnesota. We need to be focusing on something else. I think is absolutely right that all of this seemed to really happen. Couple things, because I was pointing this out to my mom. Trump had just had a major success, I think, in Venezuela that a lot of people in the media thought wasn't going to be successful for him, but most people agreed with his actions there. And then right after that, it was brought to light all the fraud in Minnesota with the Somalis and Waltz. And then all of a sudden, this blows up. And so now, of course, CNN clamored onto that. MSNOW clamored onto that. All of the main news stations clamored onto that. And it is escalating a situation where, you have both sides hating what's going on, and it making it dangerous for anybody. And I talk about the paid protesters, but those paid protesters also attract others who are not paid to put themselves in the situation. That can be very, very dangerous. Yeah. Young people. Yeah. It's not good. I hope all of this gets kind of wiped off the board very soon. And because it needs to calm down. People are losing their lives over this, and nobody should. Nobody should.
Bottom line, folks, this was big business for MS Now and CNN. And somehow I don't believe, even if it's proven, even if that's where this is going, I don't think they're going to come back now and say, oh, by the way, that chaos and our ratings covering it brought to you. You know, we really hope that you felt this video was satisfactual. We know we had an actual good time participating and communicating with each and every one of you out there listening. It is a great honor. It is a great pleasure, even a responsibility to do this on a daily basis. You give us the dream job we love doing, and for that we can never say thank you enough. There's only one small favor we ask beyond what has already been done, and that is, folks, consider it. That is clicking the like button. Share, subscribe, click it, stick it to those pesky algorithms. It's the notification bell, and drop a comment right on down below. Let us know your thoughts, because your thoughts do indeed matter, no matter what the mainstream media would otherwise say. Folks, as we say every single time we end these videos, because we mean it, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.